All right, do we have a show for you today? Bust out the show notes here. This video is kind of sort of about like what's coming up here on One Road. I know some of you have very particular interests in perhaps the 1995 GMC Suburban, or even the 2003 Chevrolet Suburban, or even the 2005 GMC Envoy that I have. So I just wanted to touch on each one of those vehicles and let you know what's coming up in the near future for those here on the channel. But before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about what's been going on in my neck of the woods. The first and foremost is I got towed. The family and I went out to a Christmas tree lighting, and I thought I had a good parking spot. Matter of fact, I thought it was an incredible parking spot. I couldn't believe I had it. We got there relatively early, knowing that there would be no parking. And so, yes, you could say that I was parked on the path of the parade. Yes, you could say that I should have known better. But what I could say is, hey, there were no signs anywhere. There was no parking signs. None. Not only that, when I was parking in the spot that I parked in, there was cops around seeing me. No one mentioned anything to me. Nothing at all. No one even cared. Yes, there was people camped out with their camping chairs sitting on the side of the road right there, but I thought, hey, I'm far enough away. There's no signs anywhere. And by the way, where I parked was kind of like a jet out, like a jetty out from the street. So it's not like I was blocking the path of the street. The street had this extra kind of parking area, so I was out of the way, essentially. And lo and behold, I got towed. So that was a fiasco, but I did get my car back just right after it did get towed, because I had a buddy who, believe it or not, actually saw it happening. So he called me and, long story short, called the company, and at first it was $85, and then it slowly creeped up to $100. So there's nothing, when your truck is on a tow truck, what are you going to do? They're basically holding your vehicle at ransom, and can tell you whatever price. He could have told me $500. What could I do? I would have had to pay the man just to get my truck back so that my wife and kid weren't walking 15 miles home or, having to call a cab or an Uber. I was really irritated. I realized that, so I was parked where I shouldn't have been parked. But again, my thing with that was there was no signs. There was none. And I was really far away from the center, the downtown center. Anyways, moving on. I had my septic pumped. Enough said. Oh, and by the way, if you are on Instagram, which I am going to go ahead and assume that 100% of you, okay, we'll say 99.9% of you are, One Road has an Instagram account. The account is called One Road Garage. And actually, speaking to that, we also have a website. I don't know if a lot of you guys know, the website is also www.oneroadgarage.com. So let's get into the vehicles and let you know what we have coming up. And for the 95 in particular, there is quite a bit. And I'm definitely going to want your opinions, okay? Number one, steering gearbox by Redhead. Number two, brand new steering column, the lower, intermediate steering shaft, whatever it's called, eliminating that rag joint. And then I can't just stop there, can I? I have to move on, right? So now I have to replace the center link, the tie rods, all the ball joints, the control arms, the bushings, everything, the works. And then when you go there, then you start thinking well, what parts do you replace it with? Do you just get typical, AC Delco or Moog or something like that, which are good, but they're just factory replacements? Or do you go major kick in the pants upgrade stuff, which is the kryptonite stuff? Yeah, let's go kryptonite, right? But that's for the center link and the tie rod, you're looking at $800, and then I got to get the pitman arm, Death Grip pitman arm it's called, and then that's another $250. So goodness, this stuff is gonna be expensive, but it should lend to a very, very tight feeling steer. I hope that's the goal. I'm just trying to get rid of all of the potential failure points. Because as you know, I've been building this truck as an overlanding rig, which I still haven't gotten into a whole lot. I've done a little bit here and there in the snow, which it's incredibly fun. But I want to be able to take this out and not worry, you know? And I think I can do that now, but I just want to not worry at all. I don't want to worry that I have like some, you know, old part that's just going to bust on me because I should have just replaced it with something way nicer. When you think about that sort of a situation, all of a sudden the cost of the parts to get those major like military grade parts is not that expensive, right? Because you get your truck towed one time, it's going to cost you potentially $1,000. So if I just replace those parts so those never break and I never have to be towed because of those parts, they kind of pay for themselves in a weird way. That's how my brain works. Okay, so aside from that, the other part of the suspension that I mentioned was my lift kit. Some of you guys know I put a rough country 2 to 3 inch lift kit, they call it. It's okay. It gets the job done. It gets my truck up in the air. It looks great, but the ride quality just isn't really there. I mean, it doesn't ride terribly, but it's just that with that type of a lift, which is a torsion bar crank, the torsion bars are now a lot tighter, and so therefore it just rides a little rougher. I have to say though, I love the way my truck rides. It doesn't ride bad, but I think it can be better. And on top of that, I'm having like these alignment issues where I have it aligned and everything is fine, but why not replace, you know, like everything along with the steering components? I'm talking about the bushings and the everything in the upper and lower control arms, the ball joints. Why not replace all that stuff and get everything nice and brand new? I know those lower control arms have never been touched. So the bushings in the lower control arm mounts and the bottom ball joint in that lower control arm, I'd like to get all that stuff brand new and replaced so that I have no issues there. Also, there's the hubs. Do I go get brand new front bearings? Do I have a problem? No, but they're 87,000 miles and very old. So do you just replace those too? You know, it's like the list never ends, but at the same time, I don't necessarily have to replace this stuff right now. I could wait. So that's kind of where the 95 is at. There's a boatload of work that could go into that, but at the same time, I could just take that thing out and run it, which I have been. But I want to go on some good trips, and I don't want to have the potential of something breaking or bending. So I may just continue on with the gearbox and the steering shaft and, you know, just try to get everything else replaced also. It's going to be expensive and take some time and effort, but it's going to be worth it. And by the way, some of the inspiration to that is coming from a guy named Jason, and his channel is called Auto Edits. So look up Auto Edits. I'm sure a lot of you know his channel. He's got quite a few subscribers, but he's got a 90, I believe it's a 95 Tahoe, just like my 95 Suburban, and he's been replacing a lot of that stuff with the kryptonite stuff, the like way overdone it stuff. So I can't wait to potentially do the same to my truck. It looks like from what he's doing, and he's got 35s on his Tahoe with no official lift. I mean, he's cranked the bars, I think, a little bit and then has 2-inch blocks in the back, but no like official, I bought a lift and put it on. He's just basically adjusting or accounting for the size and tires. Check out his channel. It's pretty awesome. I love watching his videos. Very thorough, very just like chill and easy to watch. But when I started seeing him doing that to his Tahoe, I'm like, oh, I need to do that to mine. Like, started to get a little jealous, I'm not gonna lie. And you know, there's other stuff I'd like to do to the Suburban. I wanna get some headers on there. I wanna free up a little bit of horsepower and torque. I also wanna redo the exhaust. I'm curious if there's some kind of exhaust leak somewhere in the system. That's something that, you know, as far as exhaust work, I kinda wanna do the entire thing. From headers, from front to back, the whole thing. I want everything brand new. So I think that would help power-wise. And also, I may be putting the E-fans back in. I don't know. That's up in the air right now, so we'll see. So we'll skip the rest of the stuff for the 95 and we'll move on to the 03 Suburban. That one, I have a couple things coming up. You know, ever since I first bought that, I've been hearing this weird whining, almost whistling sound, which sounds a lot like a vacuum leak, but I've kind of looked at everything I could possibly look at for that, and I don't think there's a vacuum leak. I think what it is something happening with the steering pump, basically. So I think that that pump has an issue, and I think it was something that was actually documented by GM back in the day. And I can't remember what the official fix was, whether you just replaced the steering pump or I think one fix I heard of was running a thicker oil in that. But I think I've tried that also and it's still making that sound. So every once in a while when I go to turn, when I'm at a stop, it seems like the wheel has almost like I've lost my power steering. So I'm just assuming that the power steering pump is probably on its way out. So that's something I'm going to be doing for this 03. And the other thing is the brakes are making this weird squealing sound. And I suspect that the rear brakes are having somewhat of an issue. So I'm probably going to be getting into brakes on the 03 in the rear. But I'll look at all of them, of course. But I think the issue is with the rear. Okay, so moving on again, back to the 05 Envoy. And that is essentially my wife's vehicle, but I do love driving that thing. It is like primo. It looks like brand new. It only has, I want to say, I think we might have actually just passed 40,000 miles on that thing. I think so. So it's got very, very low original miles, and it's got that straight six 4.2 liter Vortec engine, which I think is a great engine. The thing runs like a top. Absolutely no issues. I have done a tune-up. I've put all new plugs and stuff in there. But the one thing that I want to do, which I haven't done on that vehicle, is a transmission, basically filter and fluid change. My other two Suburbans, as some of you know who follow the channel, I've done a fluid flush. We'll call it a passive flush. And I had great results with that. I will link those videos up here. But the Envoy, I think what I'm going to do is just drop that pan and do your very typical filter change and replace the fluid that comes out with the dropping of that pan. So that's what's going on here on One Road in the very near future. And thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to check out the description below for more information and links. Also, we have a website at oneroadgarage.com. We are One Road Garage on Instagram. And with that being said, I think I have finished this. I'm not quite sure how long this video is, and I know I've been talking like a motor mouth this whole time. And because of that, here's a little bit of silence. How'd you like that? For One Road, I'm Jimmy, and I will see you in the next one.